Since 1882, Gahanna Lincoln High School represents a history rich in tradition. In the year 2006, the school will be celebrating its 125th year anniversary. Throughout the years, many issues have impacted the school district, one of those being war. Hi, I'm Jason Parks.
I'm Sarah Farley.
And I'm Garrett Downing with a special 60-minute report from WGLH-TV.
In the past 10 years, WGLH-TV has made an effort in honoring and preserving our high school's history. As we look back over the years, a group of students who have made a significant impact but whose efforts have gone unrecognized are the men and women who have been a part of the military the past 125 years.
A group of students and teachers recognized this issue late last year and have begun to make efforts to recognize the members of our military.
Actually, Garrett, the effort began about 4 years ago when a group of high school students realized the sacrifices that these World War II veterans made when they missed their prom and graduation in order to fight for our freedom.
Matt Cahoon and Sierra Johnson remind us of the efforts that were started 4 years ago when students hosted a senior prom and graduation for World War II veterans who missed it due to the war.
Over the years, many veterans fear they will no longer be remembered or forgotten about, much like the pictures here in this hallway. Though at Gahanna Lincoln High School, the students and faculty have made a continuing effort to honor our veterans.
History debilitates or destroys the emotion that existed at the time. Later on, you can't understand the emotion that existed at the time things happened because you weren't there and the reason for the emotion is gone.
In 2001, Gahanna Lincoln hosted a senior prom for the veterans who were drafted and called to service during World War II.
Young people are doing a magnificent job, and I think it's fantastic, especially for us older people.
The jazz band, under the direction of Mrs. Shellhammer, played the night away with classic songs from the 1940s.
Along with dinner and dancing, memorabilia and other artifacts from World War II were on display for the veterans to see.
I think it's very nice to pay some attention to veterans of World War II, and I'm glad to be here.
With senior prom held in 2001, Gahanna Lincoln realized a year later that 8 former students had never received their diplomas because of serving in World War II.
Ohio House Bill number 77 gave veterans the recognition they deserve by allowing high schools to hold special graduations for war veterans.
The veterans are very appreciative of the students' and faculty's effort. Former Naval Buck Sergeant Boyd Wooten explains.
Never once gave it a thought. I saw an article in one of magazines pertaining to military personnel and what was going on in Franklin County. And so I decided, why not? I said, I think I'd probably be entitled to it.
Edward Ware, class of 1943.
I think one of the things that truly made the graduation ceremony very, very exciting was the opportunity for the graduates to have invitations to send out to friends, guests, and a number of them had family members travel great distance to come and join in the celebration for the graduation ceremony. And as we watched them celebrate and stay afterwards for the luncheon activity.
Over the years, the city of Gahanna, along with the high school, have striven to honor our veterans.
With events including senior prom, senior graduation, and various memorials around Gahanna such as this.
So they'll continue to honor them for the past, the present, and the future. Until next time, this has been Matt Cahoon
and Sierra Johnson, reporting for WGLH-TV.
Those events really did have a lot of meaning to the veterans who were involved. As a continuation to service learning here at Gahanna, the high school received a grant to enable students to participate in their school and community.
About 70 students brainstormed ideas on ways to serve and honor our veterans of past and present, and they did so by forming 6 different committees. Lindsay Donaldson and Jenny McMullen report on the progress of these committees.
Gahanna Lincoln High School always strives to preserve the history of past generations through senior class photos, pictures of annual activities, and showcases displaying memorabilia. However, this year a large group of students and staff are working hard to recognize an often neglected portion of our history.
the catalyst might be, of course, in our decision with the loss of Nick Messmer last spring. We decided we need to honor those who have served and recognize those who have fallen, not just in the current war, but in the past as well.
To honor war veteran alumni and graduates currently serving our country, several committees are fundraising, researching, and creating awareness. Students are conducting media drives, making public service announcements, researching history of our fallen veterans, and designing a memorial to remember those who preserved our freedom in past wars.
We just tried to brainstorm a little bit about their ideas. We came up with 6 different committees where we would kind of put people that was an interest to them. And that's kind of where the project has evolved. Basically, we wanted it to grow out of what students' interests were, because we wanted it to be their project.
Mr. Peters, who is the advisor for several committees involved in the project, consulted WGLH-TV in order to receive their input on the memorial.
Served is a great idea to put that together. My biggest concern with this is that we're going to spend all this time and money into it, and then some high school students who don't always make the best choices are going to make it their job to, disrespect it.
Hopefully students will understand the hard work that has gone into approving the building of the memorial. The design was inspired by a war memorial in Columbus, Indiana. The Hannah Lincoln architecture students compiled blueprints and constructed a model for the structure of the memorial.
We decided it should be more than just a plaque on the wall, because sometimes students would just walk right past that. We decided to put that out front so the community could have access to it. We decided to make it something that was interactive, that you would walk not just by but into, in order to be able to read things that are on the wall and to have that an experience.
In order to make the monument possible, several fundraising projects are underway. Ryan Hall organized an oldie show featuring 3 bands of students and staff at the high school. The ticket sales and open donations from the show will go toward the construction of the memorial.
I'm talking to City Council this Friday. I'm going to get a bunch of help, support with promotion, and also some fundraising even before the concert starts. It's $5 admission, and all donations are accepted.
I'm so thrilled that this school has been able to encourage the students, and the students have an enthusiasm for learning about the histories of war. It's important that for us to understand past wars so we can avoid problems in the future.
A year from now, the hard work and dedication of students and staff will be repaid when the monument stands here. This has been Lindsay Donaldson and Jenny McMullen reporting for WGLH-TV.
In order to better understand the reason behind honoring our veterans, it is important to find out who they are and their experiences in the war. Joe Robbins and Justin Schiff get a veteran's perspective about their experiences.
The Star-Spangled Banner represents the spirit of patriotism and democracy throughout the world. However, our nation's flag could never have the same meaning without the brave souls who fought to defend it. While many have been lost or are still fighting today, some of our greatest heroes are the men and women who serve our country in times of trouble. Veterans today still share their stories and hopes that their memories will never fade away. World War II veteran Ed Turlow comments on his wartime experiences.
We got there on 10 June. The invasion started on 6 June. We got there on the 10th. We left on the 13th. So we actually arrived at Madeleine Beach on the 14th of June.
To supplement his story, Mr. Turlow still keeps some interesting memorabilia he has from his tour of duty and is happy to display it to those interested.
Notice Hitler always wore a hat like that, right? Like this. I brought that home with me. When we got there, we were issued books of German phrase book, Russian phrase book, and a French phrase book. We didn't know where we would be, who we'd run into, so we had these books available to us to learn a little bit about that.
World War II veteran Paul Bushchalk also has some keepsakes from his time in service.
And we were near a village over there, and I got to know some people, and the guy had a camera, so he took pictures of a few of us, and then he gave me this negative. So every time I think of Italy, or this picture, I think of Italy and my experience over there.
Paul's unit spent time in Africa and the Middle East, but completed the majority of their objectives in Italy.
We got to Rome, and we took Rome about June the 6th, in I think it was 1944, and
That was your biggest thing?
that was our biggest main objective and our biggest battles here around Rome.
Veterans today still serve the community by working the color guard at local athletic events and parades. These servicemen and women strive to keep patriotism alive in this great nation.
Many take our nation's comforts and freedoms for granted.
However, without the men and women who have served and are serving today in our nation's armed forces, that vision that we call the American dream might never have been accomplished. This has been Joe Robbins
and Justin Schiff reporting for WGLH TV.
Some of the experiences that people went through during World War II were very emotional, making them difficult to talk about even today. But at the same time, it is important that they are not repeated. Elise Igdaloff and Jessica Spunt talked to Murray Ebner about his experiences in Auschwitz.
Over 70 years ago, Adolf Hitler attempted a genocide against the Jewish people of Europe, known as the Holocaust. Over 6 million men, women, and children were taken from their families and killed by the Nazi soldiers in the death camps all over the region.
The largest and most infamous of the death camps is Auschwitz, where very few of the prisoners survived. One very lucky teenage boy, Murray Ebner, managed to escape this death camp after almost 3 years of struggling to survive. We talked to Murray, who is now a resident of Columbus, and he tells us his story.
My hometown before the war had about 4,000 Jewish people. And after the war, there were only 5 men survived. No women, no children. Every woman and every child was killed by the Nazis.
When taken away from Auschwitz, Mr. Ebner decided to take a risk when given the chance.
And I don't know how I did it, right by the door, by the entrance, I dug myself under the hay as deep as I could. Next to me, I could feel somebody else was already down there. I fell asleep. I don't know how long I was sleeping. And then all at once, they opened the door and they told everybody, rouse, out, rouse, out. So people start coming out. And then people were walking right atop of me without even realizing I was on the bottom. This Hungarian guy put his hand on my leg like that, so it gave me a clue not to move, because right away the Germans came in looking around, and whoever they found, they brought him right practically above me and shoot him. I thought, sure, this will be it. And then finally I could hear them leave.
The conditions in the death camps were unbearable.
There's not much privacy. In the wintertime, it wasn't very warm here either. So we did the best we could, because this was all we had. As you can see, this is all we had right there. I felt like an animal because I felt I was living like an animal.
Everybody was sad. Everybody was didn't know what to expect. Everybody was thinking about the family out there someplace, because we had no communication whatsoever.
The effects of the Holocaust will live in Mr. Ebner forever.
I'm mad at God. Then one day I was thinking, gee, I'm doing everything that my parents did not want me to do. Didn't raise me this way. And I felt, just came upon me. I said, and then you making Hitler happy, because even though he didn't kill you one way, but he killed you because you lost your religion.
As long as the memory of the Holocaust exists, history will not repeat itself. Reporting for WGLH TV, this has been Elise Igdaloff
and Jessica Spunt.
Some of the atrocities that took place in the war are hard to imagine. In the 1940s, Gahanna was still a very small rural town, but some of our own residents took part in the war.
Brian Levin and Jack Simon interviewed some Gahanna residents who were around during World War II.
World War II. What initially started as a fight for land turned into the defense of freedom.
But freedom isn't free. It has its price.
However, those soldiers that come back alive come back as heroes.
We interviewed 2 of those soldiers in this in-depth report.
We first spoke to Gahanna resident, retired General Jim Abram, on his past war experiences.
World War II, after Pearl Harbor, was going to be the great adventure for us. We were all kids. I was 20 years old when I graduated from Ohio University.
And the great adventure turned into something a lot more serious than that, and we learned very quickly that war was not a pleasant thing at all. It was very brutal, and it's not nice. And no matter what people say about the way things happen, and we're not human, and all the other comments that you hear, in wartime, it's a matter of survival. It's a matter of who is going to live and who isn't going to live. We didn't ask to be put in that position, but we were put in that position, and the next and the most urgent thing was survival.
One of General Abraham's most memorable moments was when he met the world-famous General George Patton.
My Jeep was parked on the side of the road, and all at once I heard the siren blaring, and it stopped beside my Jeep, and it turned out to be General Patton. And he said, "What's going on?" I said, "Well, sir, I don't know. We've been stopped here for 2 or 3 hours now, and nothing's moving." He said, "Well, what are you doing about it?" And I said, "Well, sir, you got all kind of generals and colonels running around. There's not much a corporal can do." A little bit later, he left, and a little bit later, we started moving very slowly, and as I drove into this crossroads, he's standing there directing traffic. I saluted, and I saw his lips move, and I think what he said was, "See how it's done." Well, I pointed to my helmet, which had nothing, and I pointed to his that had 3 stars at that time, grinned and saluted again, and went on. Never thought any more about it until I saw the movie Patton, and realized that you never know when you're going to become part of history.
A lifelong citizen of Gahanna, Byron Prushing talks about his experiences with the atomic bomb.
Toward my period of time in the Philippines, the first atomic bomb was dropped, and excited a lot of us because rumors began to circulate that would probably cause the surrender of Japan. Sure enough, about a month and a half, 2 months later, we got word that Japanese were going to surrender. So I ended up on board ship heading for Japan.
Mr. Prushing also compared and contrasted the soldiers of World War II to the soldiers of today.
Today, it's quite a lot different because we don't have the world involved in a major overall war, but they are involved in a war today that is still striving to achieve the same results that were achieved in World War II, and that's making our country safe.
Byron Prushing and General Abraham are only 2 examples of the millions of Americans who've risked their lives to defend ours.
Reporting for WGLH-TV, this has been Brian Levin.
And Jack Simon. God bless America.
Women are a very important part of the military. Throughout time, this role has changed. Brittany Vile and Kristen Morenzel got the opportunity to speak with 2 outstanding women, one of which is Pearl Dixon, who will be celebrating her 100th birthday in a few weeks. The second is Ruth Earl, who was a member of the Women's Army Corps from 1943 to 1945 and head of the Department of Relocation on Hickman's Air Force Base from 1952 to 1973. Here are their stories.
Land of the free because of the brave. Over 400,000 women served in the United States military during World War II. Of those, 432 women were killed by hostile fire, including 200 nurses, and 88 women were prisoners of war. So why is it that the first thought that comes to mind concerning the military is the idea of a male soldier protecting our country? One courageous woman who broke the barrier and served our country as a Gahanna graduate and current resident is Ruth Earl.
Mostly in England. I was with the 8th Air Force, and I was a radio operator, and we worked missions that were over Germany, and that's the part that I remember the most. I don't think women should be in combat.
Okay.
I think there are plenty of jobs that they can do and should do, but I do not think they should be in combat.
In addition to her military rank, Ms. Earl was also inducted into the Gahanna Lincoln Hall of Fame in 2002.
I would not have been satisfied if I hadn't gone overseas. Now, I could have stayed here in the States and maybe been an officer, but I wasn't. But I did want to go overseas, and I was glad I did, even though we were just the second group that went over. So it was, all something new. But it was an experience that I'm glad I had, and of course I'm glad we all come back safely.
As you can see, Ruth Earl has made an impact internationally. Not only has she had an effect on our military, but also on our very own Gahanna Lincoln High School. Another woman has also made a great impact here at Gahanna. Is Pearl Dixon. Follow us as we go to interview her at the Inn at Chestnut Hill.
Well, if they want to fight for their country,
I think they have a right, just like the boys want to go, that's what they want to fight for their country. I think if they want to, they're not drafted, they volunteer.
We also got the chance to interview 2 women currently in the military on their views.
Oh yes, definitely, because without them, like, there'd be no way that, like, I could just, like, wake up one day and be like, I think I'm going to go in the Marines today. I mean, obviously, it's, like, a long road to get to where we are today, so.
There's a lot of people that feel like we shouldn't be there, but I feel like we can do anything that men can do.
Clearly, many women have had an impact in our military, including Gahanna graduates. This has been Krista Morenzel and Brittany Vile reporting for WGLH TV.
The Gahanna population continued to grow, and by the early 1970s it had quadrupled in size. A number of Gahanna residents and students fought in the Vietnam War. Grace Amador and Michael Carey have an in-depth report about Gahanna residents who fought in the war and how different the public reaction was to this war.
Mark! Hi! Left, right, left, right, left, right, left. Left, right, left, right, left, right, left.
The Vietnam War started in 1965 and ended 10 years later in 1975.
It was without a doubt the most influential and controversial war of the time, and can be compared to the Iraq War of today.
We asked a couple of Vietnam veterans about their experiences.
My parents didn't agree with it, but I did volunteer for it because I thought our country was doing something. And when you're doing that, you're actually obeying orders. So you don't think much about, should I be here or not? I always wanted to do my part at the time.
Some soldiers at the time were already husbands or even parents. For Dan Schroen, keeping in touch was very important, especially for his children.
Actually, we're thinking of ways that the kids would have some relational experience, and it was something that we just couldn't get done through letters. And tapes recorded were around. We just thought, why don't we do this as a means of communication?
Hello, Danny. You know what I'm going to do for you? I'm going to sing Happy Birthday to you. Won't that be silly? I wish that your mommy were here so I could sing it together with your mother. I actually think that I sing better when I'm standing by your mommy because she's got a very nice voice, and I sort of sound like a crow. Okay, are you ready? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Danny. Happy birthday to you.
I love you, Daddy.
I remember getting the tapes and just how much an impact voice had. Letters were wonderful between Brenda and me, but the actual hearing the kids' voices on tape just meant a lot. Helped fill that void.
This is a question that Wilma is asking to Fred. Fred should spend, Okay. What are you up to?
The main idea in my mind was that the children would not forget their father's voice because he was going to be gone a whole year.
Hi, Brenda. Hi, Danny and Carrie. Let me tell you that tape that you people made was an absolute delight. I really, really enjoyed
The
it.
children would run and get his picture and put it out when he was reading the tape. And I would just say, go get Daddy, and they'd go get his picture and put it out and listen to it. Because I really did fear that they would forget what he looked like and what he sounded like.
Well, they had a typhoon here in Vietnam, and we were getting ready for it. We were getting water to drink for ourselves, and we were doing lots of things to protect ourselves in case the wind came, but it never did come here. It went up a little bit farther north of here. And I was sure glad it didn't come to Cam Ranh Bay. Well, we've got geckos here, and we've got cockroaches just like in the Philippines, so I don't really feel lonely because my room has lots of cockroaches and lots of geckos.
Secretary at our own Gahanna Lincoln, Effie Johnson, talks about her family's reaction to her brother being drafted into the Vietnam War.
Effie's brother, who fought and died in the Vietnam War, impacted their lives greatly.
Times were different back then. People didn't talk about it openly. I was very, very protected because I was young. My mom and dad, didn't let us know a lot about what was going on because they knew it was a very bad situation.
Although serving in the Vietnam War, Master Sergeant Stephen Walters did not receive the honor he deserved.
I served in Vietnam for a year in 67, 68, and down in the Mekong Delta. I was with the security police of the Air Force then. When I came home as an individual, and the best I got was indifference.
Vietnam was a war that impacted Americans and the world.
Many soldiers were lost, while many other lives were shaped into what they are today.
We as Americans will never forget how these heroes risked their lives for freedom.
Reporting for WGLH-TV, this has been Grace Amador.
And Michael Carey.
Gahanna population has doubled in size since the 1970s, and many residents have fought in various wars, with some even losing their lives.
In order that the city honor the efforts of these men and women, the city established a memorial. Wes Gardner and Stacia Jackson describe more about the purpose of this memorial and how it was developed.
Gahanna has done many things over the years to show thanks to the veterans who served this country. One major way is Gahanna's very own Veterans Memorial. This memorial began construction in 1999 and has been standing ever since. The bricks that lay at the base commemorate veterans that have served in previous wars. Gahanna's former mayor, Jim McGregor, comments on the memorial's importance here in Gahanna.
To celebrate the memorial that to our veterans of foreign wars, and actually to all soldiers, not just those that served in the Army or that served in war, but all soldiers from all walks of life, because it takes about a dozen soldiers in the rear to keep one combat soldier fighting in the front. And anybody who has served can be remembered and honored with a brick here today.
Back when the memorial was being built, Gahanna City Council had a ceremony to commemorate the memorial. Gahanna Lincoln's very own band was there to play some patriotic tunes for the people that were there. There was even a 21-gun salute to remember all the veterans that have served for this country.
Having a huge role in the production of the memorial, Tom and Becky Neeland are responsible for it and its upkeep. Here they are talking about the memorial.
My dad engaged my wife to really be his right-hand person in the development of that park, and trying to come up with the different plans and such to come up with a design concept that would be appealing to everybody in Gahanna.
We decided that you did not have to be a resident of Gahanna in order to have a brick. The only real criteria was that you had to be a veteran of some branch of the service. It pretty much covers every war. I mean, back to the Civil War, the Revolutionary War, we have bricks, that are for people that served a long time ago and people that have just served recently and are serving now. A lot of people thought that you had to already have been killed in action or dead or died, and it was more of a memorial park, but it is for living veterans and anybody that has served in a branch of the service. This memorial should be for every veteran, whether you served in peacetime or during a war, or whether you were here or in a foreign soil somewhere. It was for all veterans, and that was the only criteria that you had to meet in order to have a brick. So that has allowed us to honor a lot of people that have not had been honored or been able to be a part of any other organization. We can still honor them down at the Veterans Memorial.
So now that you know a little bit about the memorial that you drive past every day,
Take a minute or two out of your day to stop by and commemorate those who have risked their lives fighting for you. Reporting for WGLH-TV, this has been Stacia J.
and Wes Gardner.
Presently, a number of students here at Gahanna High School have made their choice to join the military once they graduate. Jordan Rao and Erica Smith interviewed them about how they came to this decision.
With all of the options available to students after high school, only a few are choosing to pursue a career in the military. Although this has not proved to be a popular option among high school students, the few that are courageous enough to defend their country deserve to be recognized.
We have the chance to talk with Sergeant Meredith about what it takes to be in the armed services.
When a woman joins the Army or Army Reserves, the first step they have to do is take the ASVAB. The ASVAB is given here in your school, but a lot of kids don't take it here, so it's offered again at the MEPS, which is the Military Entrance Processing Station. After taking the ASVAB, then they speak with a guidance, they take a physical, Once they are physically qualified, deemed to be fit to serve in the United States Army or Army Reserves, then they speak with a guidance counselor, and that's where they select their job. And their jobs range from 200 different fields that they can choose from, such as one for yourself, broadcast journalism. Once they join, they ship off to basic training after they're done with high school. Basic training lasts about 9 weeks. It's basic combat training is what it actually is.
We talked to a couple of seniors who plan to become a part of the Marines after high school.
My name is Sarah Callie, and I'm a senior, and last year I was in Career Passport, and I was exploring career options, and I was taking a look at the military, and I really made a decision to join the Marines because I wanted to do something out of the ordinary and take it a step farther than most people take it, and I thought the United States Marine Corps was the way to go.
The reasons why I joined the Marines is because if you look at all of them, they're proud and they're doing something for their country, and it's going to give me self-discipline. It's going to make me proud of something I'm doing with my life instead of a lot of other things that I could have done. I could have copped out. I could have done something else. Marines is one of the hardest and most challenging part of the military to go into, and I wanted something to be challenging, and I wanted the mental stamina to be able to go through the challenges and not just quit. And I'm going to be able to do something that not a lot of people can say they have done, so it's really cool to be part of the Marines.
CARES recruiter Sergeant Lewis gave us an insight into seniors joining the Marines.
The type of people we see coming into the military, or the Marine Corps for that matter, are those individuals that aren't satisfied with being average. They want to strive to be the best that they can possibly become. Status quo or striving for average, again, isn't something that one who wants to be a Marine aspires to. Because the Marine Corps is known for the challenge. It is 13 weeks of recruit training. And once somebody's mentally and physically qualified, that's great, but it's my job to make sure that they are morally qualified. As you heard with what Carrie said, she wants to see what she can become. She wants to challenge herself to see how great she can be and the challenges she can overcome.
Overall, the military seems to provide an enriching and educational experience that will stay with students for the rest of their lives. This has been Erica Smith and Jordan Rao reporting for WGLH TV.
A number of residents have chosen to take part in the National Guard or Reserve service.
We even have our own armory in Gahanna. Ali Matunis and Amy Shulofsky talked to some members of the local reserve unit about their experiences.
Tens of thousands of our soldiers are serving courageously around the world. Army Reserve soldiers are either deployed, preparing to be deployed, or returning from a deployment. Our soldiers know that their service involves sacrifice. Any success attributed to the soldiers in the Army Reserve in the global war on terror is due to our soldiers' sacrifice of courage, both at home and abroad. There is a training place in Gahanna off Taylor Station Road for the Army Reservesmen. There are people from all over the city who come there to train. We have our own Sergeant Sauter from Gahanna who trains there as well. We talked to Mr. Clark, a campus security guard here at Gahanna, on his experiences being in the reserves.
I served in the Army, both active and reserve. I was in a total of 14 years, served as a military policeman, went in as a private, left as a E7 Sergeant First Class, served overseas in Germany, Egypt, the Philippines, Kuwait, served in the last Gulf War as a reservist, mobilized. Did my active duty at Fort McClellan and Fort Rucker, Alabama, back in the early 80s. Left the service because I'm a disabled veteran.
The roles in the Army Reserve are grouped into 4 distinct areas: Combat Service Support, known as CSS, Combat Support, known as CS, Mobilization Base Expansion, and Combat. Combat Service Support, the largest group, deals with medical, supplies, and transportation, while Combat, the smallest group, deals with infantry and attack aviation.
However, before being in the reserves, you must go through basic training, and this is a process where you are both mentally and physically challenged. During basic training, soldiers get in the best physical shape that they've been in their lives and learn how to dress, act, and talk like a soldier. Along the way, they discover a higher level of self-confidence and an inner strength that they will use in the Army Reserve and beyond.
We took a look at some of the things the soldiers experience during basic training.
Grip? Do you have a grip? No. All right, let's make some We're going to hit you in. Get him on the target.
Well, thanks to all the people in the Army Reserves. This has been Amy Shalosky
and Allie Matunis reporting for WGLH TV.
With a reduction in numbers in the active military service, a number of reservists have been deployed in Iraq. Donnie Milborn and Megan Nuss talked to family members about what it's like having loved ones in Iraq.
The war in Iraq has affected a numerous number of Americans, including men and women from our own community who are currently serving there.
We had the opportunity to correspond with Gregory Geisler, a 1995 graduate of Gahanna.
Greg joined the Air Force Reserve over 3 years ago and is currently serving in Iraq.
We asked Greg several questions about his experiences overseas.
When asked how he felt on the war in general, Greg responded,
I am proud to be participating in my mission here in Iraq. I am a member of the International Zone Police, and we conduct law enforcement duties within that area. The most fulfilling part of our mission is the opportunity I have to interact with the Iraqi people inside the IZ through community policing. I have heard many stories of how they suffered under Saddam Hussein and how they have been victimized by the insurgency. The importance of interacting with the Iraqi people is to develop and strengthen the bonds of trust and respect that will demonstrate our commitment to them. It is upsetting that the American public is only shown images portraying the violence here in Iraq and never any of the positive and constructive stories that are commonplace. Due to the American sacrifice, the Iraqi people are getting to participate in the future of their own country for the first time.
Greg Geisler is not the only Gahanna alum to serve in Iraq. 37 of our very own Gahanna-Lincoln High School graduates are currently serving or have served in Iraq.
We interviewed Darius Blackford at the Lima Company Parade to see how he supports our troops in Iraq.
We started raising money for the Marines that were killed in Iraq. The first 4 were killed in late May, and we made it a goal to raise enough money to send all the troops, the Marines from Lima Company, as well as their dates to the Marine Corps birthday ball in November. And after that, another 15 to 20 of them were killed, so we really stepped up the efforts, and we've had a phenomenal turnout. We've had such great response, and we've raised about $7,500. So we're still a little short, but we know we're going to get to the goal before November 12th.
I spoke to a student here at GLHS whose family has also been affected by the war in Iraq.
Hi, my name is Vanja Boykai. My cousin Sammy is actually in Iraq right now, and it's really hard to do with it. He's a very close cousin to me, and his mom, she's a mess. And we had to spend our first Thanksgiving without him, so that was something. It's hard to just think of what could happen to him, but I guess all you can do is be hopeful and pray.
The war in Iraq has definitely taken its toll on Americans as well as people here at Gahanna-Lincoln High School. I'm Donnie Milborn.
And I'm Megan Nuss for WGLH TV.
The effects of the war were certainly brought to the forefront when the Ohio Marine Battalion, the Lima Company, lost 14 men in one roadside bombing.
This was the deadliest roadside bombing since the war in Iraq began. Now, 10 months later, the Lima Company has returned home, and Jason and I were at Rickenbacker Air Force Base to catch their tearful reunion.
The emotions are riding high here at the Lima-based company in Columbus, Ohio. Soldiers returned for the first time today, and family and loved ones are anxiously awaiting the soldiers to arrive.
This is the bittersweet homecoming. Many of the family members are sitting out in the rain waiting their family's return. We're glad to have them home and thank them for all the work that they've done over in Iraq. The Lima Company, an Ohio-based military unit, returned home from Iraq on Friday, October 7th at Rickenbacker Air Force Base.
After being gone for close to a year, the return was emotional for the parents and soldiers. Out of the 160 soldiers in the company, 16 soldiers died and 34 were wounded. An astonishing number of nearly 60 soldiers were awarded the Purple Heart for their bravery and courage during the war.
The family members welcomed home the Marines by making signs and standing outside in the rain waiting for them for several hours. We had the chance to talk to several family members about this emotional return home. Mary Campbell discusses the return home of her son.
It's just been one exciting emotion.
I don't know. It's just a happy occasion. I tell you, I can't wait. I haven't seen him since January, and I just can't. Just thank God every day that He's kept him alive.
Columbus's mayor, Michael Coleman, had a son that served in Iraq for the Lima Company. He talks about the relief of having his son home safe and sound.
An incredible load off my shoulders, a wonderful experience, and I want to thank everybody from Columbus for coming out today to support these soldiers.
The attitudes at the base conveyed a variety of emotions as the family members embraced their loved ones upon their return home, but also reflected upon the difficult times which they endured while the Lima Company was gone.
It's been very, very nerve-wracking. It's always there in the gut of your stomach. You never know. From day to day, you're always afraid of the phone ringing in the night or something like that.
The true heroes in this experience were the soldiers. We interviewed them about the emotional times they went through in Iraq and the triumphant return home.
I never really, I guess I couldn't imagine how it would be to hold my daughter for the first time. She's unbelievable.
After seeing the soldiers return home, we heard some amazing and courageous stories, and we'll always appreciate what the Lima Company has done for this country. Reporting for WGLH-TV, this has been Jason Parks and Garrett Downing.
It's been a very trying time. It has really tested my faith, and like right now, it's almost surreal that it's actually, this day has finally arrived.
This is the day we've been waiting for. It's going to be a great day.
I feel really excited that he's coming home, and I don't really know how to describe it. I just feel like I'm gonna blow.
It's hard to describe in words, being gone for 10 months and
One of the members of the Lima Company, Danny Swingle, was a 2003 graduate of Gahanna-Lincoln High School. I talked to Danny and his family about this triumphant return home.
One of the members of Lima Company, Danny Swingle, graduated from Gahanna-Lincoln High School in 2003. The Swingle family displays a strong loyalty to the United States and is dedicated to the protection of our freedom. Along with Danny, his two older brothers, Paul and David, also have served time in the military. I talked to David about these wartime experiences which he shares with his brother.
Been in the same situation, just a different country, so I've been gone about the same time he has, and I know what he's going through and what his guys are going through, so we're all glad to have him back.
While in high school, Danny participated in a number of activities, including quarterback of the football team during his senior year. After graduating, he decided to join the Marine Reservists and follow in the footsteps of his brothers. His recruiter, Sergeant Lewis, talks about Danny's willingness to serve this country.
The nation called him to defend freedom, and as a Swingle, he stepped up to the plate. As a Marine, he stepped up to the plate and took off, and now he's back.
In order to pay respect to the soldiers, a motorcade of police officers and veterans escorted the Marines from Port Columbus Airport to Rickenbacker Air Force Base, where their families anxiously awaited their return. Close to 1,000 people lined the streets to cheer on the Marines and honor them for their service. I talked to Danny Swingle about this experience.
The ride down here was pretty nuts. I've never even seen anything like that. The way the community came out, supported everybody. That was pretty awesome. And I don't really know how to explain it right now. I just want to go home and chill and have a good time for once.
Danny's family welcomed him home by carrying out a Hawaiian tradition. His mother Becky talks about this custom.
It's a Hawaiian tradition when a Hawaiian child graduates, we give them leis. Well, when Danny graduated, his leis got stuck in Cincinnati. So he didn't get them for graduation, he's getting them now. It's a way to show our love.
Upon their arrival home, the Marines were overcome with a feeling of awe as a result of the intense love poured out by their family members. Danny describes his emotions after he finally saw his family.
Really excited. I don't know. I can't really explain it. It's a pretty awesome feeling though.
After the long stay in Iraq, Danny finally has a chance to take some time for himself.
For now, I just want to relax.
Danny Swingles certainly deserves some time to relax. We thank him and the rest of the Lima Company for all they have done for this country. Reporting for WGLH-TV, this has been Garrett Downing.
In order to support our troops, students at Jefferson Elementary School collected items to send to Iraq for the soldiers. Alex Panoska and Alexis Pilarczyk give us a peek at what took place.
Students of Jefferson Elementary lined the hallways November 11th for the Veterans Day celebration. The students themselves were the stars of the assembly, singing songs and reading poetry.
We never fully repay our debt of gratitude to the more than 650,000 American service members who died in battle or the 1.4 million who were wounded. We can, however, recognize and thank the 25 million veterans still living today.
Today it is our privilege to say thank you to all American veterans, to let them know that we appreciate them for their for their service, and honor them for their sacrifices.
The students definitely showed their appreciation for the veterans, but what exactly does veteran mean to an elementary school student?
I think a veteran is like a superhero because he's saved. He wouldn't be here today. He might not be here today because he helped. Veterans help our country be safe. I think a veteran is somebody who served in the armed forces and is somebody who helps other people.
We interviewed Lloyd Early, a senior chief petty officer in the United States Navy Reserve, who has a student himself at Lincoln Elementary.
I'm Lloyd Early, and I'm a senior chief petty officer in the United States Navy Reserve. I drill with Navy Reserve Cargo Handling Battalion 9 out of Rickenbacker Air National Guard Base, and I was deployed to Kuwait last year with Navy Expeditionary Logistics Support Force Forward Alpha for 9 months. We served at the port of Shuaibah in Kuwait, loading and offloading Army ships. Today we're going to talk to the kids about how you identify a veteran. I think they all by now know what a veteran is, but I think they might be curious to learn that veterans are our moms and our dads and our grandmothers and grandfathers, and they come in every conceivable shape and size, and that really the only way to distinguish a veteran is by what's in their heart rather than their outward appearance.
We're here with the Girl Scouts of Jefferson Elementary.
It's no doubt the Veterans Day celebration has been a successful one here for the students.
This has been Alexis Pilarczyk
And Alex Panofsky reporting for
WGLH-TV.
In order to recognize and honor our veterans on Memorial Day, Blacklick Elementary had a special assembly on November 11th. Grace Amater brought this back.
Veterans Day is a time to honor the heroes that have served and are serving our country. Although it's been around in the United States for many years, not many kids today realize the true meaning behind this holiday. Every year, Blacklick Elementary has a special ceremony on Veterans Day to honor those who have served our country, who are relatives of students here at Blacklick.
So part of what we want to do here at school is help the students understand what it means to be a veteran, what it means to have pride in our country. So since I've been at Blacklick, we have had assembly on every Veterans Day, just to celebrate for the veterans and just to teach the kids what that is all about.
I'm Henry Martinez. United States Army, 1963-67. I'm here for my grandson,
Went pretty good. It was a lot of veterans there. Okay, a lot of different type of veterans also, different conflicts, and I think the kids got to see firsthand what this day is all about.
To help kids visualize what some of the veterans had gone through, a slideshow was shown with images that an Iraqi soldier brought back. Reporting for WGLH-TV, this is Grace Amateur.
In the spring of last year, the effects of the war became very real for students here at Gahanna-Lincoln High School. 2003 graduate Nick Mesmer was killed during an attack west of Baghdad. The entire student body of 2,500 students lined the streets to pay their respects. Sarah Callion and I got the opportunity to speak with Rick Mesmer, Nick's father, about the memorial that Gahanna is planning to honor all of the students who have fallen during conflict.
Nicholas Mesmer, son, brother, fiancé, friend, and American soldier, was killed in Qiddiya, Iraq on May 8, 2005.
Nick was a 2003 graduate here at Gahanna-Lincoln High School. He was admired by his friends and family for his great personality, his bravery, motivation, and his dedication to our country. His friends and family say they never saw Nick without a smile on his face.
Nick was a private first class in the Army's 1st Battalion, 506th Infantry Regiment. Nick's family received many medals, including his Bronze Star and Purple Heart that he had earned during his time in the service.
Nick enjoyed being part of the military, where he was involved in Special Forces. We got the opportunity to speak with Nick's father, Rick Mesmer, about why Nick chose to be in the military.
He had his mind set. He wanted to go to Special Forces. He wanted to jump out of airplanes, and that's what he wanted to do. And he did. He got to do it all. And he loved the weapons and all the neat stuff, you know. I talked to him probably 2 times a week. I actually talked to him a couple days before he was killed over there.
Students at Gahanna-Lincoln High School paid their respects to Nick by lining the streets as the funeral procession passed.
We talked to a teacher at Gahanna about her memories of Nick.
When I heard of his tragic loss of life, I was really very upset, and it really affected the way that I look at the war and my own patriotism. I always remember Nick very warmly, and just what a neat kid he was, and his parents should be very proud of him.
On November 11th, a celebration was held at Gahanna Veterans Memorial honoring the troops who have served for our country. One of the focuses of the service was presenting a plaque as a reminder of Nick's sacrifice for our country.
Dedicated to U.S. Army Spec 4th Class Nicholas Edward Mesmer, who gave his life fighting for the country he loved.
At Gahanna's Veterans Memorial, a brick was placed in Nick's honor beside the bricks of his grandfather and cousin, who also served in the United States military.
Not only are there bricks at the memorial, but a tree also stands in his memory.
Nick was set to marry his high school sweetheart, Mary Murphy. He also had plans of becoming a firefighter.
However, Nick put his future on hold to show his dedication to our country by fighting for our freedom.
This courageous young soldier is not only a hero in Gahanna, but a hero to all Americans. He gave the ultimate gift to our country. He sacrificed his life.
In honor of Nick, we prepared a slideshow in his memory.
This has been Sarah Callion
and Sarah Farley reporting for WGLH-TV.
The city of Gahanna also had a special gathering for Veterans Day. Special speakers and members of the high school were on hand, and Danny Eiler and Mike Eiseringhazen have the story.
Throughout the history of Gahanna, many men and women have fought and died defending our freedom. This year on Veterans Day, people came from across the state to honor these fallen soldiers and their families. The ceremony was held at the VFW post here in Gahanna. The monument consists of the eternal flame surrounded by a platform made up of bricks listing the names of many of Gahanna's veterans.
One of the families honored at the memorial service was the Mesmer family. A specific plaque and tree was dedicated to Nick, a Gahanna-Lincoln graduate who gave his life in the line of duty.
The featured speaker of the service was Mrs. Kinslow, mother of a soldier who gave his life this past year in Iraq. Her speech was a very emotional one, which will remain in the memory of all who listened to it.
I'm here today to speak to you of the Ohio Fallen Heroes Memorial as a mother. My son, Specialist Anthony David Kinslow, was killed in action on June 13th of this year. He and Sergeant Koontz of Youngstown were killed when their Humvee was hit by a grenade. Anthony was one of 6 children, and his death has left a hole in all of his siblings, and his father and mine, and all of his friends and relatives' lives. Anthony is buried out in a cemetery on 23. I visit him, and every time I do, one of the most difficult parts of that visit is leaving. His headstone seems to stand alone. Walking back to the car is a very long and difficult walk. In Sunbury, his hometown, his cross will stand and be recognized with all of his Ohio servicemen. All of his fellow comrades who served in Ohio will stand together and proud. Anthony was killed at the age of 21, the prime of his life. And I remember thinking, he didn't have a chance to marry, to have children, to make his mark in the world. But I was wrong. He left an important mark in our history, as so many others before him. Serving his country was an honor and a privilege. His sacrifice and those of our other fallen will be paid tribute in Sunbury. Thanks to the compassionate and honorable men and women who are working to erect the Ohio Fallen Heroes Memorial, Anthony and all those who have served and have fallen will be remembered and not forgotten. Thank you.
The memorial service was sure an emotional one, and this monument, which stands in Gahanna, will represent these fallen heroes forever. This has been Mike Eisinghausen and Danny Eilert reporting for WGLH TV.
In producing this special edition, we found a large group of students from Gahanna-Lincoln High School has significant impact throughout the past 125 years.
Our hope is that through the Serve and Honor Group, we will not only be able to recognize the members of the past and present military, but also raise awareness within the community.
Finally, in our research, we realized that a number of students who attended Gahanna-Lincoln High School lost their lives fighting for this country.
By establishing a memorial, this will always serve as a concrete reminder for what they sacrificed for us.
This is the only way we are able to serve and honor. This has been Jason Park,
Sarah Farley,
and Garrett Downing reporting for WGLH TV.